Gonna need a new dam on Mac Hill.
That's for Rapidan.
All right, this is our monthly EDA meeting. It's June 25th, 6:30. So Rebecca, gonna call the order
Mayor Eckworth.
here.
I don't know if you guys just want me to use first and last names, but Jamie Rothy. Here. Paul Pendergrass.
Here.
Jeff Schuppe.
Here.
Dan Thronson.
Here.
Kathy Gable. Adam Beedling. And me. We're good.
So we have an agenda in front of us. And I'd like to amend the agenda. Under the new business C and D, I would like to have those two discussions tabled till the July meeting. Mainly because we are both Paul and I on the council, so we're in the middle of a public hearing going on between July 13th, June 13th and July 11th. So I think it would be better to have those discussions on those two topics at our July 23rd meeting. So any other comments on the agenda?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of amending the motion as motioned, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Next item is the May 28th. The agenda says April 23rd.
Yeah, I know, and it's, I'm sorry about that.
I looked at that once, I thought, okay,
May 28th.
approve the May 28th minutes.
Luckily, I put the right one.
I make it a motion to approve the meeting as written.
Second,
I'll second.
you see any corrections or in the May 28th meetings? Yes. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. It's approved.
And just an FYI, we got all of them put up on the website today. So all of the EDA minutes are put on there. All of the EDA information is on there. So all that's updated because Jason and I worked on that this afternoon.
Great. Yes, for public input? Okay. Go to our new business and
All right. And you guys should all have a copy of our lovely first draft here. These drafts have all of the data that was brought in along with the analysis of the data, kind of an interpretation of what it means. Some of them have a couple interpretations just to make sure that everything's covered. But I wanted to make sure that you guys all had access to see what was in here and see if there was any thoughts at all on changes that need to be made, whether we deal with it today or just to make sure you guys have these in hand for next time. I'm hoping that for the next time, I will also have all of the recommendations added in at the end of each section, except for the demographic section, because I can't really recommend anything there. But for the other sections, there will be recommendations of programs and different things that we can look for to do to address some of the concerns. And there will also be an executive summary. I just didn't want to pop that in until I was completely finished. So I'm hoping that that should all be ready. Our final draft should be ready at the next meeting, but the content should not change.
Was there a comments section among any of these, like just open comments?
I didn't put any of those open comments in just because I figured some of them were just very. Yeah, no, I didn't put in any quoted anythings, no.
Okay.
I just kind of took what people said and tried to make it sound nicer. Or at least legible.
And can you remind me, when we did the survey, it was just the process, so as we're looking through this, we took all the information from the survey and analyzed it, not looking for like statistical significance based upon our community as a whole.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is there a way to, and maybe it's in here, is there a way to understand the demographics of who responded to the survey? Just thinking about the types of people that responded and if there's groups of people that are missing that we might want to do additional data gathering, so.
When you mean groups that might be missing, do you mean like age groups or? Okay, because it does show all of the in the demographic section, it will show of the people who did participate, what we have.
Okay.
But I guess it won't tell us necessarily what's missing. I did for the gender, for example, I specifically showed that there is a discrepancy between the census and what we received. So, I mean, not by a lot, but that it needed to be noted. So I did try to make sure that I noted that in certain sections when I noticed the applicability of it all. I think I also did it when it came to annual household income.
Okay. Yeah, I have not spent time in this, so maybe that's part of the discussion is how we work through this. What I have found in other studies is that we're not paying close attention to demographics. If a group, one group maybe, or a group of demographic people, let's just say people over 80, more people responded. We may be missing a voice or maybe making decisions based upon that. We just might want to make sure, review that together as a whole. So if there's a group that's missing, we're either grabbing more information, or it could have been more people that were in their 30s and looking for something else out of it. I don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't read it in detail, but that
The
might be
younger
something I
group
wanna
is
consider.
lacking a little bit. Typically, we do get some of the older generation just has a little more time on their hands. And so they're a little more willing to come to our event and to fulfill our surveys, but.
Okay.
I think it's important when you ask that is that you put all the information out to everybody. And it's up to the individuals that want to respond to that. I mean, as long as everyone has equal access to all the information you were putting out. A person puts out, it's their choice whether they want to respond or not. And some of the younger people might not because they might not own homes or they might not do something. So that it really doesn't mean much to them until a little bit later. But as long as they have that opportunity, I think what you've done your job is when you start to go seek them out for their opinion. And then I think then I think it's a little bit overboard because then you really don't, I guess if you really want to be involved and put your opinion in, you do it. If you don't and you're forced to, then sometimes what you put down might not be always accurate. You know what I'm saying is that you either want to participate or you don't. If I'm forced to, then I start writing stuff down, doing things that really aren't factual, or I'm thinking I'm doing it because I have to.
Well, if you're seeking participation, it could always lead back and look like you're trying to weight it in a certain direction that you might not be trying to do.
I appreciate your comments. I think what's important is that if we are making decisions based upon the feedback, that we have a clear understanding of who responded. So that way, when we are making decisions based upon this, we have that in mind. And if there's more information that's needed, we have that opportunity for discussion. I agree with you. We never want to be perceived as trying to draw or force someone to give information. But I think in the demographic section, if we're looking at our census, looking at ownership or whatever those pieces are that we think are important in our audience, perhaps that would just give us a better understanding of the data that we're looking at. I feel like it gave us a pretty broad view, but like you said, there's probably a few things that maybe got missed. And there'll probably be more opportunity for conversation and further discussions with the types of decisions or conversations we want to have with the community. It won't all be based on this, but it's, I think, an important note to say what voice is coming through in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can make sure that there's a notation in it that explains like, hey, this is, because there is a section about the actual project planning and engagement and kind of how things came about. So I'll make sure that I address that in that section too.
What was the median age of not of the participants of the city when we did that census? Do you remember?
35, 34.
It was younger.
Yeah, it was younger. That's why I was a little surprised that, I mean, this skewed a little bit older in its results. I mean, because median, if it's 35, 34, that means there's a lot of people in their twenties,
Mhm.
you know, that are in
I
the
was
city.
looking at the comprehensive plan this afternoon, and back in 2006, the median age was like 37.1. Something that's what's
Is that the
a
last
little
time,
younger.
is that the last time they evaluated that age?
Yeah, the 2006 comprehensive plan, that's when they had that data. Now, there's been census data ever since, 2010 and 2020, so.
Well, out of curiosity, did we add in the number of new homes being built each year here in town? Be something might be interesting to have added.
There's 551 units, I think you put in your study.
Yeah, but I didn't put in how many were put in each year. I can certainly check with Renee to get the number of permits that were drawn for it so that we can, to know for like maybe the past 5 years.
Just for some reason, that might not be a bad number to have in there to
See
know,
what growth is.
know what we're actually looking for and how we.
Well, from the meeting the other night I was at, the people that filled the room there. They pretty much said they pretty much told you why they come to Orinoco. And why they built in Orinoco, and why they live in Orinoco. When they spoke, they pretty much laid out exactly why they're here.
So
One
you,
thing,
oh, go ahead.
just an editorial comment. As I was looking through this, I think it would be good. I know you start every section at page 1.
Oh, that will be changed, yeah,
Okay.
because right now they're separate documents and I popped them together. I promise the beginning ones prior to the actual bit will be done in Roman numerals, and then the actual document will all be done 1 through the end.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't have that chance to do that.
That this morning or this afternoon we talked about.
Yep.
Thank you. Jamie, you had something?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'll wait.
Well, maybe not everybody's had a chance to look through this. If you just got your.
No, I haven't.
now, so if you sit down and read it, it takes about an hour and a half. If you really want to read every word. And I caught some misspellings while I was reading too. So if you see, let Rebecca know if you receive any misspellings, but we got a couple, pretty good overall.
Yeah, because this definitely didn't have a template. I wrote this word for word. So if there is some errors, I do apologize. We'll make sure we get them fixed.
I think you did an excellent job on what you had with the information you put together and your graphs in here and everything else. I think for what you did. I think it's done something, There's always room, because anyone would ever say there's always room to improve when you start something out, but your thing here is a great template to work off of and to start with.
And anything that you guys see that you think should just be even looked at again, please do not hesitate to reach out, let me know, and I will make sure I dig into it again and just double check things or add some info.
So going forward as a EDA, how are we going to use this?
As far as
Like,
recommend to council the approval of this, or how we're disseminating it, or what's?
Well, each
No.
section, at the end of each section, there'll also be a listing of recommendations. So it'll say, based off the information that we've gotten, these are recommendations that can help to solve the problems that were identified or to help along things that people are looking for, as well as different programs that are available in, the area or the state that we can apply for to get funding to help make some of those things happen. So that will all be put in
perfect,
by our last one. So that's the only part that's missing right now.
okay.
That could potentially be another step for engagements as well, because I would imagine, and there was a large number of people that responded and came to the open house, so an opportunity to share those recommendations out and looking for additional feedback could be another spot along the
Yeah.
way. If we're looking for continued conversation with the community, I think perhaps that's something for us to consider.
Yep, kind of like a little mini forum on it.
How many surveys were there? Because there were surveys, and then there was the open house at the fire hall.
139 surveys, I believe.
38 at the other fire hall.
Or how many were sent out?
That's how many came back. I sent out over 500.
Every resident, every business got a letter or survey.
Mhm.
Yep, and then 38 residents attended the in-person event. And you can also find that info in the project planning and engagement section.
Oftentimes with engagement, kind of follow a process where you're asking for information in, you synthesize it, you put it back out to say, this is what we heard. Are we missing anything? Did we misinterpret something? And then you can take that information back and then kind of start to build your action plan. And that way it gives people the opportunity to have a discussion along the way or share additional information, which I think this does a really nice job at laying it out, saying this is what we heard. It's easy to understand. So I think that'll be the next step if the group's open to that.
Yeah, and it's factual. I mean, that's, I think probably a main point that you were trying to get across was it's not, I didn't read any bias towards a feeling of what was felt. You know, it's the facts, and spitting the facts back out to people is great. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's also why I made sure not to utilize those specific comments that were
Yeah.
made, because obviously those were very back and forth.
Sometimes in those you can do like a theme where you're staying away from, I want this kind of restaurant or this kind of thing.
Yep.
You can theme it and say, these are, and bring it up high level, but I feel like that's what's captured in here already. So, and see how, this next step goes and if there's more information that people are looking for. But.
Absolutely.
And the next item on our agenda before we finish, we are going to talk about some marketing studies too, so that kind of fills in. So, a lot of graphs. I think people appreciate that. Easy to read. Yeah.
I like to keep them color coordinated,
Yeses are darker than the no's, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Sure. I'm like, is that a theme I didn't notice?
Well, some of the things. Here, it switches.
Oh, which one's that?
Yeah, let's just, no any other comments, take your time to read. Send Rebecca an email, your thoughts, comments.
Thank you.
It's a living document for a while yet, so.
Yep.
As far as just comment I made a little bit about how we share this information, we're already talking about a LinkedIn and Facebook and website to a link to the report. And
yeah, because we'll make sure it's on the
available.
website for sure, and then we can share the link to the website page that it's on with the whole city. I mean, if we want, it'll be up to the EDA because with our budget and all, but if you guys are interested, we can also certainly put it out in the newspaper in an advertisement, or we can put it out on the local radio, ask them if they'd announce that it's complete. We could certainly run it on our signs out front that they're done and people can download a copy.
So why would we notify the media, I guess, curiosity?
Oh, media, just to let people know,
Okay.
just to disseminate information.
And we can circle back to that in July too, if
Oh, yeah.
everybody's had a chance to look at it. All right. Don't have anything else, but go to the next item of our potential market studies. And I mentioned something to Rebecca last week, I think it was, about there's a lady that in
Her name is Tracy,
yeah,
and she works with Cracker Jack Marketing. It's her own business. CETA has a partnership with them. So we do work with them at no cost. And what they do for us is they will do market studies that we request at no cost. So if we were looking at needing to get a cold storage in town, or we were looking specifically for a type of retail store, we can ask her about those particular types of businesses, and she will do all the market research to see how much money the city is leaking by not having certain types of things. And the impact that adding a certain business or other, I think today we mentioned outfitters was one of them, or a retirement or nursing facility. We'd be able to get data back telling us kind of what the needs would be in this area based on the surrounding markets. So we do have the access to be able to get those at no cost, whereas usually those get kind of spendy. So we do have the ability to do that for a number of them. And I said, I reached out to her and she said her lead time right now is about a month. So if we know what kinds we want, we can certainly make the request.
How many requests can we make?
You know, I don't know. I don't know how many she'll take at one time. I would say maybe we keep it to about 5.
I mean, because there's a lot of, I mean, very clear things in here, grocery store, restaurants, you know, senior living. There's a lot of things that, you know, if we're gonna act on this, it's likely, you know, to say, okay, you said this. Now we did a market study. And then let's say that the market study came back and said, you're right, there's a huge demand. Well, then the purpose of the UDA is to go find somebody to help do that. Or there's not really a major demand for that, but communicate that back to everyone saying, I know you think that's a priority, but the demand is actually not big. So, you know, if somebody approaches us, sure, but you know, we're gonna pursue these other 5 things or whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
But I think that's extremely valuable to have that information.
And we can always, you know, if there's 1 or 2 things that you guys know we absolutely do want to find out about, we can certainly ask for those. And then after we've completed the study and really gone through it, we can select what other items you'd like to do, or we can wait and do all of it then. So we can be completely flexible with that too.
Or we go with the lesser knowns. So I think it's pretty well known, we need a grocery store,
Right.
bar, restaurant, whatever.
I
But
think our grocery store is gonna be satisfied with the Dollar General.
yeah,
It's not the average Dollar General.
right.
It's a market.
It could be, sometimes you find that if it's not, you know, like, I know up in the cities, people are very particular about, they want to shop at a co-op or you know, something that's more of a natural food store versus, you know, a lot of people buy groceries at Walmart, you know, then maybe that's what you'd find is that it's not as, you know, a demand for one versus the other. And there's people are still like, I want more fresh produce or, you know, and I don't know anything about the market that's coming into town, but.
No, the Aldi's, it's supposed to be or not Aldi's, but it's supposed to be a Dollar General market, isn't it, Ryland?
Right.
It's supposed to be another one within 200 miles of that style.
Sure.
That's interesting to be
Yeah,
more,
that's great.
more produce and food. And
Yep.
I think that's because there is a lot of detail in some of the graphs and the responses that we got back and numbers associated with the priorities of each one. So I think that's something to be mindful of when you're going through the surveys. Just jot that item down and we can review that again back in July and really get a more definitive plan. And you say, how many can we go for free, you know, but we don't want to, we can find funds too or grants to help us with more if that's what we need. But I do think there's a lot of possibilities, especially around the interchange. I think, well, I read through it, but I just got a couple ideas. One is, what do we want to do as a possibility for an industrial park or a commercial park on the south side of 100 in the purple area where it's M1? That's pretty much be a type of an M1 user permit. Another thing, one other item I had was, it was mentioned in the comprehensive plan, and I think could have some meaning. It's one of those, is this really something that would work for us or not? But it's an office park. Not, it's kind of like a strip mall with offices in it, some small warehouse behind it or something like that. But just to draw businesses out of Rochester or wherever, just idea to help with our tax base, but also to provide increase state tax, but put them in the M1 or the B2 along the highway or something like that. But I think that's at some time I think we ought to engage the board of directors for Orinoco Crossing, the People's Cooperative that own the land where Casey's is at on Energy Lane. I think it would be good to invite them to our EDA meeting and have them share with us what their thoughts are and how they want to develop that, because we know there's things that have tried to get in there, but the board said, no, we're not interested. we're not really sure what they're interested in.
What's the name of the group that owns?
What's that?
What's the name of the group that owns that?
Oracle Crossing,
Oh,
it's, the president, Mike Hickey is the president of it, but there's a certain group of people that make up the board of directors, so. But they may help with our market study too, what they're looking for.
Mhm.
Even though it's still a private group, but the point is, we're just trying to increase retail development or whatever they're looking for too.
It also, I mean, as you pursue commercial, a lot of commercial people want to understand density, you know, so it's maybe they think there's not enough people, not enough density to go, you know, if they want to build a new restaurant or something that demands on high traffic, you know, it's like the cart before the horse, you know, so I think does the market study also do they do housing? I mean,
They don't do housing.
it's all commercial.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I guess I got two questions or whatever. And one on the report, someone talked about a car wash. I don't know if anyone ever approached Casey's or the other one up there, because like in Rochester, the Quick Trips all have a standalone drive-through car wash. And so to do a car wash, that might be something that on the property, the gas, now that you got the sewer hookup and everything else, might be animal, they would be feasible to, they might want to look and say, I put automated car wash, standalone car wash, to help the residents out. I mean, it's a versus building a whole standalone, you know, but that is a car wash like in Rochester, but the gas station, it's a very,
Absolutely.
it's a very big moneymaker. $1 to wash, $10. I mean, the profit margin in car washes are immensely huge.
And you're right, some of them probably just didn't put them in because of the water and sewer, but otherwise would have
We
done
got,
so.
you got two stations here that man, that
Mhm.
could, it's just a thought. And then,
Right,
and my other thing is as I watch the gentleman up there in the town of Orinoco, and I see that the storage units up there, he just finished up, added all kinds of more storage units, and I'm thinking, as I drive around Orinoco, everyone's got a garage and everything else, so I'm wondering where all the people are coming from. Parts of are they coming from Rochester for his storage? I can't believe it's all Orinoco that's going up there and storing it. I don't know, but I mean, evidently he found a niche because he's added a whole bunch more onto his for the, and maybe he's ahead of his game or whatever down the road, but, I always kind of wonder where all those people are coming to rent all those units that he's putting up, because they must be doing it because he's added a whole bunch more.
Mhm.
And stuff in Rochester is adding even all kinds of, they're actually getting now, so you store your motorhomes. I mean, those are some pretty expensive, storage units, but I guess as we think forward, the big thing is that maybe the gas station might think of the car wash would be a simple thing that, I don't know if EDA or whatever, it just would make sense that that's where you would start with
Mhm.
something like that for the city of
a car
Orinoco.
wash is a destination. A car wash is a destination.
But there's nothing here, so you would have to go to Rochester to do it, and if you can do it. Grocery store is a destination, the gas station, I mean, you have to go there because you have to go there and
Do
I
you have
just.
the name of the storage unit? Cause I could certainly reach out and I wouldn't be surprised if you'd be willing to share with us the zip codes.
There's new owners. It's Carefree Storage. It's a franchise out of Minneapolis. The person that built the original one, he lives in town, but he sold it to Carefree Storage now. It may be another name, but that's the person we heard it.
Find zip codes, it'd be a good,
Mhm.
reference point as to where they're coming.
Have they pretty much
They're in the
built,
cities too.
have they pretty much built all they can up on that property then, or?
The plan is built out.
Okay, so then they've reached the maximum.
Building for what was in the original plan originally. So he just finished the plan, so.
Okay, well, I just see them here last month finishing up on, putting all kinds of units, more units up, so.
Yeah.
I think apartment complexes go hand in hand with storage units. If you look at Rochester, they're
That's very true.
everywhere.
I know from what I've heard from some of the folks I've talked to, a lot of them are from Rochester who are utilizing the storage units.
He might be a little cheaper. I just didn't know. This is what I was just thinking, and I know that good friends with Dustin Thompson up there, and I know that he's looking to put another warehouse or put something more on his property for his. Because his village isn't growing and to be able to put he's renting other places to put his stuff in and he wants to have it all on one site, which I understand because they've got to drive all these places, pick something up here, there, or whatever, so.
That's my understanding too. He wants to get rid of that container and
Yep,
all that goes into this new building within the next couple of years. So
so that's what he's talking about. So that's positive. I mean, he's growing there too.
Is there an opportunity for the Cracker Jack marketing to do a higher level leakage study for Orinoco? I'm assuming they must be using like Placer AI or other data tools to understand where people are traveling before and after and what their destinations are. And then what their spend is related to that. I'm assuming that's where she's pulling some of her data, but it'd be interesting to do like, if we could request it, the highest level of where people are going, and then maybe some of these other themes that you're talking about of learning more about car wash, I would agree, or other things that are kind of showing up. That might give us a cue too about what showed up on the survey and what actually are people leaving to spend their dollars for.
I'm sure that kind of a study could be done, but the only studies that we're able to do at no cost are just based on a specific markets.
Sure.
But I'm sure that they could do it at a higher level. It's just, that would probably be something we'd have to budget for.
I'd like to see him do something like what Ryland said on a business type park for small businesses that they come out and it's whether it be insurance agents or a little something that I'd like to see a study on that on the property is that to bring people out in a small business type mall area that is set up for businesses and stuff like this. And some might have to have a little bit more storage or whatever they do. You know, if it's a realtor office, you know, he's got to have something for his signs or whatever, you know, so he's got a door back there. But I'd like to see a study out here. I think that'd be a very positive thing for Orinoco to have a.
Kind of like that office park that you had
Yes,
mentioned,
that's
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. That'd be a wonderful start.
in the economic development session, there's a listing of 20 some items that was on the survey, what people were looking for. Well, the top two was grocery store and restaurant. Next was retail shops, coffee shop, car wash. So that's kind of a start.
Does CETA have a subscription to Placer AI or any of those tools? Are you aware?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Might be something for the organization to look into, like the city of Rochester just purchased a membership or subscription to it. So Placer AI is a tool that's you're able to understand people's patterns and the impact of those patterns. So it helps you to build for Rochester, for example, we're using it to help build recruitment strategies for retail, entertainment, dining. So if we know that someone is going to a certain store, we can look to see what other stores are spending money at outside of our region. And then that helps to inform our recruitment strategy. It can also tell you where people are going before and after. So we can put a mark on a park and find out where people are going before the park and after the park. Or you could choose a park and find out what other parks are going to. So there's a lot of really great resources within the tool to help us understand in that recruitment strategy and what people's patterns are. So with some of the things you're talking about, there could be some great ways for us to understand, like, where are people going to do some of these things right now, or are there complementary services? For example, I think the new restaurant in town, my understanding is that there's room to grow on that site. And so if we want to recruit a complementary service where other people spending money, or what are they doing? And then how do you recruit a company in to come into the space?
Yeah, because they are putting in a little strip mall up there as well.
Yep.
At the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's the plan, yeah.
I can send you a link if you want to learn more and share.
Yeah, I would love that actually. That would
Yeah,
be great.
It could be a nature's best dry cleaning, laundry business, dental clinics. They said insurance offices. There's a lot of different things that would. Okay. Well, let's continue that thought when we come back in July and I know you're typing those items down now and we'll just keep adding to them, or
Yep, and again, please reach out if you've got anything. I'm happy to take anything at any time, so. All right,
All right, there's nothing else. We'll jump down to a couple items in old business. City email.
I just wanted to check, has anybody been able to try getting into theirs from the last couple meetings? We'll just keep working on it.
I click on mine, it comes up. But
Okay, John's got his.
I think the only other one, I think the only other one was Kathy.
Yes, yep, I think you're right.
I just switched personal computers and it lost that, so I might need your help again to
Oh, okay.
put it into my new one. I
Yeah.
have it with me tonight, but you could do it another time too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
Once we get those, we can get those put on the website as well.
Yeah.
You'll see if you go on the website under the EDA, it's got all of you listed on a sidebar. And we can put your emails under them, so that way if people need to reach out, they can get a hold of you through the email. So,
Just city emails.
yeah.
Just to clarify, we'll never put your personal information on there ever. It'll just be the city ones.
Compere Financial, that's just an update on. how much
I
we
don't,
spent.
yeah, I don't have any new updates. I just keep it on there because it's something we've got open. We'll just send them a copy of the report once it's all completed and that'll close that out.
That's their grant that helped fund this.
Yep, exactly. And then as far as the coordinator report, for the most part, all I've been working on is this report. But I know some of you were able to, some were not, to attend the training with Mike Bubani on tax abatement. If you weren't able to attend, I did send out to everybody, a link that'll take you to a folder, a Google Drive folder, and that has the video in it as well as a transcript of the video. And a PowerPoint that was not gone over in the meeting, but Mike just sent it along to kind of help as another resource. So if anybody needs me to resend it, please let me know. Otherwise, I did include P&Z and council on that as well so that they have access to.
You know, I thought that was very good too, is that I didn't ask any questions, but I listened and, you know, sometimes I get lost a little bit in what he's talking about, but I guess the big thing is how you laid it out is that the question I got from him when they come and ask you for something, you know, what can you do for me? And no, what do you need? In other words, you never say, well, they come and say, well, what can Orinoco do for me? Well, that's not the question. It's what do you need from Orinoco?
Yeah.
And then you address it so that I don't open up the bank or I don't open up my bag of goodies and say, here it all is, and you really don't need it. So that I always remember in the back of my mind, what do you need? And then if the person can afford it, why are you asking me for funds? If you can afford it, I know you got the bank account to roll it.
Exactly.
No sense of me getting involved with it. You roll with it and stuff. So I mean, so I thought it was a good seminar and what he talked about and some of the things, and I'm glad I'm learning. That's all I can say is I'm learning as I go with it. How he presented it all. I don't quite understand everything he said, but he's been in the business a lot longer than I've been, so.
I don't understand everything that he says either. It's like, that's what he specializes in, so but he's very good at
Something like
describing
that,
it.
so if you have a question, isn't like you have to give them immediate answer. We can always say, we'll get back with you, and then we circle the wagons and say, no, does everyone understand what someone's asking for? And then you go back with an answer.
In layman's terms, so it's, you know. That's
Well, and
good
the other-
examples.
The other nice thing is that if we do have a project that ever comes up and, you know, people are talking about a tax abatement or a TIF, and they're talking about the difference between how long you might want to have one versus how much you might be willing to give up in tax, you know, revenue. All of that can just be sent to Mike and he'll give us a listing of, here's all these different options and this is how they end. And so he can really lay it out there to give people so council would be able to just get a nice readout.
Right. Good.
Yep.
Good. It was very good, and thank you for putting that together.
Absolutely. I'm glad it was helpful.
All right, there's any other input, comments, anybody? Seeing none, I make a motion, the meeting adjourned at 7:10.
I'll second it.
One quick thing,
Sure.
on walk-in items that,
That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
oh, sorry, I
No,
didn't,
Shouldn't use the term.
yeah.
He's quick.
I talked about this last time I was here, which was a couple months ago, but, I think trying to find a way to get awareness of new permits being filed, would be very beneficial. In other words, like even let's take the Dollar General, for instance. You know, I've been on the EDA for a year and a half and I was not aware at all until I saw the sign. And my employees were coming to me saying like, oh, wow, you know, there's a Dollar General going in. And I'm like, and they all know I'm on the EDA. And they're like, I'm like, okay, that's very interesting that that's coming to town. And I had no idea, you know, so.
There's a way we can share, it's in the council packet, and it's a monthly report of the building permits that we see, address, type of structure, and roofing or Dollar General store, whatever the case may be, so.
Sometimes it's a matter of when the city can say something, because sometimes they will put those clauses in there that it's completely confidential until they've gotten to a certain point of the project, otherwise they
Sure.
pull out. And I think that Dollar General had one of those, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
My only reference to it, and I know that, you know, we don't have the dollars to do this and, you know, we're far away from doing it, but the city of Rochester, a lot of major cities, right on their website, you can just comb right through and see absolutely, you know, as soon as somebody files for a permit, it's public knowledge. So then you can see whether it passes or not, or it's got to go to variance or whatever, it's out there. You know, so I'm not saying that we have the resources to do that at all, but at least be able to guide people to somewhere where they can see up and coming things, you know, so that it's more out there and transparent. I think that would.
We had that discussion in the last city council meeting about more transparency with the building permits and stuff, so it could be more available. And a lot of it had to do with how much personal information we put out versus the public information. There was discussion on that.
Well, and there's exam, I mean, just go on any one of those city websites, you can see what they put out.
Sure.
You know, that wouldn't be a bad thing that I can actually put into part of the discussion for the local government and community service section. I can actually look and put something about that type of sharing information.
One thing there too is that once they know that Dollar General is coming, you've got the electronic board, the city can say, city of Orinoco, welcome to Dollar General coming to town. So in other words, just on your sign out there, there's just awareness that welcome Dollar General to Orinoco. And people go, oh, Dollar General's coming. So I mean, that board out there can be very useful with the information that you can kind of put out to people. In the future, like I said, you can put out the meetings and everything else, and then the people drive by and say, well, there's a meeting night, I can come, public welcome. Your webpage, or if they want to watch, I have evidently Zoom up here all the time, they can watch it on Zoom if they want to come on, but the point is, if you stick that out there, just remember, public, you can see this meeting on Zoom, so they don't come to city council and say, or to a meeting and say, we didn't know. If the avenues are out there, then it's kind of up to them a little bit to take a little initiative to do it. You know, we're not going to hand walk everything to each individual.
Yeah. And that's we're in the process of getting more city staff. And once some of the things get taken off of our deputy city clerk's office or desk, I think that's going to happen, and we're going to get into being able to update that sign. It's just that one person doing that now, it's just very time consuming and it's low on the priority list, but it needs to be done. And I think it will be done here, you know, this summer, maybe, hopefully, so.
Well, also fast forward too, if we use this information and we're going to actively start reaching out to developers, we now are selling what is already happening as well. You know, this is coming to town, these permits are filed right now. You know, you should, here's the area that they are. We're more well prepared to talk to prospects to be able to come to town as well.
And I think just to build on what you're saying, Jeff, I think there are a couple of things for me. I think the amount of rumors from the citizens that people call or stop by or ask about, and I don't have a place to go sometimes to find the factual information. And I know, like you said, we get city staff in place, we'll build out better systems to communicate, so it's coming. But I think it's just important to note, like, what are best practices for sharing information? Because I think the other side of it is that, you know, we are hearing themes of people not maybe, not knowing the process, so then they feel like it's hidden or it's not trustworthy, and so we want to build that back. And I think you're right, Jeff, that other cities do have a lot of things available upfront, so you can look at it. I think also, as my understanding, as we mature our processes, like, we will become more aware of things, even if we play a role or don't play a role. So like, as projects come forward, there might be an opportunity in this agenda to say these permits are pulled, or maybe there's a way for us to get to better understand when and where the public information is. Because I would imagine that we would have not public information, but looking at how we can just help to build back trust or continue to build trust with us having the most up-to-date information that's public would be helpful.
Yeah, for the transparency.
Yeah, and we can be an extension of that, you know, of helping to build that.
At a base minimum, just to start, could we add an ongoing agenda item to our meeting that just recaps the permits that wherever they are, whatever that transparency, you know,
Yeah,
begins
there's
and
a
ends
couple
at?
things just to continue what Paul was talking about. Right now, we have a software called iWork, and that's WORQ software. And CMS, Construction Management Services, our agent, or building service agent. So we've had the software, the city's had the software for several years. And now our building supplier, building service inspection, they are adopting it too. So we are working through some of those details to identify how we can make it public. And that's being worked on, and we'll just make sure that for the council and P&Z members, but you know, that's include EDA members too. Now, making it available to the public, I'm not sure where we're at on that approach to it, but we are trying to make it more transparent to the committees that are involved with it. So unless you have anything else to add, other than saying, no, that's not right.
There's a lot of can of worms that are just open, and I don't even know where to begin. But based off of what you said, yeah, the city is working on stuff with CMS and the, allowing permissions to council members. And I think P&Z or just council members, I don't remember. So that's trying to figure out how that works, because there is information there that's private information we're not releasing to people. We don't want, you know, public stuff. Where I question with this group is the focus of this is building, you know, what information are you looking for based off of building permits? Like, do you want to know that I'm building a basketball court in my backyard? Like, what type of permits are you looking for? Are you looking for commercial only permits? Because you're looking at like Dollar General's coming in, or any of these other commercial buildings that seem to get the most riled up people, that they, you know, because they don't know until the business puts it out, which unfortunately, when it's a private, you know, landowner selling to a private company and they're zoned accordingly, there's not a lot that happens in our office other than, yeah, they get the initial permit stuff, but then it's on them. You know, there's a lot of confusion. People don't understand that we don't have a lot of say when they're doing everything right. The code, like, we don't have a lot to put out there. Whereas you get some of these other ones where they've got to get variances and things like that. There's a lot more information that gets put out sooner. Whereas Dollar General can wait as long as they want to put out information.
So again, just using the city of Rochester as a reference, and I encourage
that though, because Rochester is a huge town. They have a lot of resources. They do a lot of stuff that a lot of cities, especially this size, don't do.
right. And this has nothing to do with the resources. This has to do with transparency.
I understand.
I want to make that clear.
But all that depends on the resources, having the resources to do it.
It doesn't, in my opinion. I think that if somebody is commercial only, I don't care if somebody's putting in a basketball court. If somebody is filing a permit to do something, whether or not the city has to take it into a variance or conditional use permit or any of that stuff, that'll also be on there. But if they file for a permit to do anything, it's public information. So that's what basically I want to be shared. because it's useful to us as EDA members to be able to talk about that with prospects. If a sale, you're right. I mean, if a business buys a property, that's not necessarily going through a permit process until they want to build on it. But the sale will become public once it flows through, you know, the dollars are made and taxes are done, and, you know, it shows a change of hands. But you may not even be able to tell what it is, you know, it could be some holding company or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily say what's going on. Still public information, but not throughout that process. Then eventually it comes to, okay, so-and-so files for a building permit. It's public. Hey, Dollar General's coming to town. They filed for a building permit, you know, and that's, I think, very useful for not only EDA to use, but for the community to understand, you know, even to get excitement around it and, you know, build it up type of a thing.
So with that, I'll ask, keep in the back of your mind that, like we kind of discussed, the companies don't always want that information out there. So you may not get that every time.
If they file for a permit in any other city, it's open.
But if they've got a contract that states that that information isn't put out there, we can't put that out there.
Then that, you know, maybe going back to this, like the city of Rochester, if that contract is in place, and I don't know if it is or not, maybe they don't list that on their website until it, at some point, and I don't know what that point is.
I don't know how Rochester operates with their stuff,
Right.
you know, their programs.
Yeah.
I want that in the back of your mind, like, just because there's, oh, we got a building permit today, that's not gonna be out there tomorrow. Like, there's a process that goes through, and sometimes there may be delayed information because of what's happening behind the scenes.
Well, and I fully understand that, but there's a difference in delaying when the permit's filed and when a sign goes up that they're building. That's probably a year, 6 months between that time.
Can be,
So,
Would
yeah,
it be helpful if I check with Renee each month, like, hey, in this, you know, last month, how many permits were drawn for commercial purposes? And then I could share that with you guys,
Yeah.
and then
as long as
just
it's,
each month we
as long as
check
it's
and
public
see.
information.
it's gonna be a onesie, twosie.
Well, especially because
You'll have
commercial's not gonna
100
happen very
building
often.
Fine, as long as there's a standard process. I think that's part, I feel like you're saying two things, Jeff. I think one is like, how do we standardize processes so there's this transparency? So that people, that we as EDA board members are seeing things and that we're not having to search for them, and it's part of working together. And then I think the other piece is, how do we help build trust with our community? And as the city builds its systems out, what does that look like? So that the community can find what they're looking for. Because I think we know we've gotten feedback that the website's hard to manage and navigate, and there's other new systems out there, and I know that's to come. But eventually we'll get to that space where people can do those things. But I feel like those are like the two things, because I will say from my experience during those 2 weeks, I felt like I was the only one on social media helping people understand what the normal process was. Exactly what you said. People were all up in arms about not knowing about the Dollar General, and they thought we were doing secret meetings about it. And I laid out the process for, if it's within the, you know, plan and it's meeting all this zoning, blah, 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 they can move through this, and this is how it works, and this is where you find it. And people, I think, to that end, because we have sewer now, and we have more awareness about the opportunities here. These are processes we haven't had to go through on a regular basis. So we may even want to consider some type of like basic education about how do these processes work, so that people can understand where do they get a chance to participate in the conversation.
So
People just don't know.
what you just said there, the education, as I sat in this meeting the other night, as the person from Santec said, as Herb was trying for the variance, he said, if he follows everything that is supposed to be, he doesn't have to come and do anything. Because if the land is such and they meet all the rules, he doesn't have to say anything to anyone. He goes down and files permit and doesn't have to tell anybody about anything. It's nobody's business but his, is what I was getting from the planner said. And so back to your thing about the education part, people need to understand that if it's zoned and it's zoned right and the guy comes down and he wants to put it in, he can just sign up get the permit. And he's on their way because he's meeting the criteria. And he explained that to everybody in the room that night. And I think some people were taken back a little bit going home. Because the person said on the one thing, said, well, we didn't even know the property was sold. There was never a for sale sign. There's a lot of property in this country that is sold back and forth. That a sign never goes up, it changes hands, and it's really nobody's business because I buy the piece of property, whatever, I really don't have to tell you that I'm gonna buy it. I understand where you're coming from to what you're asking, and all we can do is ask the people, can we put it out there? Or would you believe that could we put this information out and let those people know transparency on their side, so you don't scare people off and they say, oh, right now we really don't want to, but we'll let you know when. And the people know, and do that.
Well, we're, I think with this group being so new, finding that niche, making what's gonna start being consistent and focusing on, commercial stuff, because that's trying to bring business stuff. I think it's a great way to start and really to get that, okay, we're here to support these guys. How can we work with them to help promote them earlier? Let them know like, yep, we want you here, we want this, and give them that support, to help give them that confidence, which provides transparency. It does a lot of things, provides transparency, makes people feel better because they're knowing sooner, because everybody wants to know. They don't need to know, but everybody wants to know.
Well,
And that's what a lot of it is.
And to that point, you were in the steering committee meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, where we're rewriting the city codes. The goal is actually to not have as many variances and to have as many, because people fully understand what the codes are and they're easier to read and there's visuals that go along with them. And it could be that the only form of transparency happens to be when they filed it for the permit. I mean, could you imagine if things just kept flowing through and all they saw were just signs popping up all over the place, that it's broken
Every
ground?
big town I've lived in, I don't know what's going on until I drive by and go, oh, hey, look, a new McDonald's or a new Starbucks.
Well, right, but you at least, you could find the information at your fingertips in the bigger cities, because they can go on, you can go on and see all the permits and things like that.
For example, what's going on in the old, I didn't see it in the news, what's going on in the old YMCA in Rochester? It's a huge thing they tore down. And they're putting multiple layers, whatever the building's going up, and I don't know what it is.
Apartment.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and it's.
Okay, but I kind of figured that, but I didn't know. But there again,
But the permits were pulled, and that's how the media scoops it. I mean, anytime the clinic does anything or anybody does anything, the media watches all of that and then talks about what's coming to town. That's how they
As
find
soon as
out.
the media has acceptance or has ability to go to the software for the building permits too.
Well, and it's a part of like
Anybody.
the systems and that are there, that are set up. And I know that we're a different sized town with different systems and different capabilities. But that's typically, they just sign up for a subscribe list, and when the permits come out, it gets mailed out. So you're able to see the things, but
you're correct. The media also goes down to the courthouse to see who's being filed on, who's being sued and who's in jail. And every day they send a reporter down to do all those things, and they make the rounds.
Public records.
And they cover it and they come back, and whatever's important to them, they do. So if they really want to know what was going on in Oakland, the media can come out and do it. But I understand, I think commercial is, but I think that, we're so new and everything else, and I'll agree with you that this is kind of nice to know commercially wise, what we can, when we know.
Well, I think it's a matter of a culture that we're going through for everything, whether it's a commercial building or whatever is going to be next. And we look at all of the citizens that we have with our water and sewer project. We have 89 new water users, and all the different sewer bills. Nobody knew what to do. Why do I need a water permit, or why do I need a sewer permit? People have been living in their homes for 50 years, 30 years, and now it's something new, so it's, the town itself is growing in awareness and transparency, and I think that's just all part of whatever we can do to make it more transparent and be upfront with everything. But yet we need to honor the people that own the property too, and what they can do. But once they do file a permit, so that's all I'll say right now.
Well, we have a lot of residents that they've only seen variances, they see requests for stuff outside of the box.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, things are in the box, and now they're not being faced with the reality of it fits there, that's what's going there. We don't need to deal with it.
I love the recommendation of adding something to our minutes, so we're able to have it there. I love the idea of thinking about future education, of how we can help our community understand what are the paths through this, because it is gonna be new because of how much, awareness there is and opportunity there are. But I think the more we can educate our community on that, the more we can educate ourselves and keeping, communication as open as possible. I think Jeff has a really good point.
And those people will go out and tell other people, this is what I learned. And it spreads like wildfire, because then everyone says, well, this is what I learned the other night, and they pass it on.
I think
Okay.
along that education piece too, you kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier, Ryland, is what are the areas of development? I mean, you quickly said, I would love to see office complex and industrial park in this area. I mean, that, for the community to know that drives by there every day, or,
Yeah.
to say like, this is farm field, oh, I could see industrial complex.
So it's a strip.
I could see that being a strip mall. I could, then you're starting to get the people
Yeah.
willing it and wanting it and believing in it, and then all of a sudden it happens and they're so happy that it's coming, and instead of it being a surprise, right? And I mean, even like downtown, I know that this was kind of the beginning of understanding, the vision for the downtown area, and once it becomes a little bit more clear, and then you're kind of selling it, or you're at least public relationing it to the community, that imagine, this being here. And we did a market study, and the demand for a restaurant in the downtown area is huge, and we're gonna try to find one,
I think there's awareness that people need to be aware of the EDA, especially on the business side. We have 19-20 businesses in town. And, after we get through our study and kind of get more going down the road of things we need to do, we may want to bring in 2 or 3 business owners at a meeting and just sit down and say, this is what we're doing. Can you tell us about your business? In the meantime, Jeff, tell us about your business, what you want to do in the next 5 years. And build some relationships with these, Jeff Green, he wants to build a kitchen bar down here next to the post office. I think it'd be good to have him come in and just say, this is what I'm thinking about doing, and just kind of get that awareness going, and hopefully that information spreads through the public that we are doing and we're interested in growing. And
That could be a good addition down there.
what's that?
I think that'll be a good addition, Louise.
Yeah, for downtown.
Absolutely.
see the one that bought that building and.
He bought
got the-
Anderson's
The
building.
white building with the
Yeah.
black windows in it now. He wants to put a kitchen bar, a daytime cafe and a bar,
Like
so.
Nelson Cheese type thing.
Oh, sure.
And he has
He
to-
already got his liquor license.
And he had to pull a permit because he's put windows in the building, he's changed things up, so he's had to pull a permit to do something there.
Yeah.
To do the changes he's doing on his building, I would say he had to, so.
So something to think about over the next 6 months to start that process, or maybe they have no interest in doing it, but at least there's nothing wrong with asking.
And I did take notes on all of these comments too, so just so you guys are aware, I will do some extra research and see what I can find out about resources that are out there and our capacity to be able to utilize them, so.
All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
I'll second your motion.
I got it back at 7:10.
7:32 now.
second,
Oh, wait, that's right, we discarded that a little while there.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
It's okay.
good.
It was a good.
And please let people know the